everyone, and welcome to another episode of DETAUX, Designers Talk UX. So Richard Branson once said, you don't learn to walk by following rules, you learn by doing and falling over. Today we have Natasha with us, who studied fashion communication, but with an opportunity she created, she jump-started her journey into UX design, and she's here to share her story with us. Hey Natasha, welcome to DETAUX. How are you doing?
Hi.
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Same here. It was great to know about your story, how you moved from fashion communication design to being a senior product designer now. How has your journey been?
Honestly, if I look back at it, I don't think I even chose product design as my career. It sort of chose me for itself.
Interesting.
Had you met me 10 years ago, I would have told you that I want to be the next Sabyasachi. That was the dream when I was younger. 5 years ago, I was absolutely, completely sure that I would be a fashion editor at Vogue or House Bazaar. And that was the trajectory. Clothes may not be my thing, but fashion is definitely my thing. So back when I was in college, graphic design, marketing, journalism had equal amounts of my interest as well as my talent. So by the end of my college, I think 2 times I've interned with magazines and newspapers. That's how absolutely sure I was that I'm going to be a journalist.
Okay. Twice, not even once, like twice.
Twice, yeah, absolutely sure.
Okay.
So the big change happened very incidentally at my placement drive, where there was a company that had an entrance test, and that is where my interest peaked. I never before seen a company do an entrance test at a placement drive. It was like, what kind of geniuses are you looking for? So that competitor in me just sort of pushed me to go in there. And in that paper, the first question was to draw out wireframes. And I looked at my invigilator and I asked her, what is a wireframe? And I actually asked that during the test. So I had zero idea what a wireframe is supposed to be. And I just looked at the problem statement that was given and I made something. Like, I understood that it has to be something that has to do with a mobile app. So whatever I could envision, I just made up there. And I was hired. I was hired despite asking what a wireframe is. So that was purely because they could see how I could get an insight into user behavior and understand what a person would require for this particular feature to be on their screens. And I was hired on pure potential and no skill set. So when I went into that agency, I spent 6 months there, and every day I was fighting to prove that hiring me was your right choice. You did not do something wrong. So that is how I was very, very, very diligent with every project that I did. But after a point in time, I guess probably because at an agency, you're not really involved in the life cycle of what you're building. And after a point, it's just, template things that you're doing. So I sort of got bored and I started missing fashion again. So I thought, okay, probably this wasn't my thing. Maybe I just need to let go. I went back into fashion. I was working with one of India's best designers, one of the best luxury designers. So I was hired as a marketing communication designer over there. My job primarily contained planning and executing brand photo shoots. So it was completely fashion, from coordinating which model would work for this collection, what outfits are we going to put up, what is the sequence going to be, what kind of content we need to pull out, because I was also handling social media. So I had to keep all of that in line. And there was this little tiny part of my job which was updating and maintaining the website in line with whatever new collections are launched. And that was one part where I really focused a lot throughout my tenure. And because UX was something that I had sort of gotten interested in at my previous company, even when I was doing full-time fashion here, I never stopped reading about it. I went to workshops. I had really spoken to so many random designers, and without any shame, I would just message them and ask them things. about how it's been, whatever. And I think I had every article on Medium imprinted in my brain. Like whatever anyone's written, it was all up here. So I was consuming all of that information without an outlet for it. And because my dealing in the brand was primarily with Instagram, Instagram was also one channel where the audience engaged most with the brand. Like that is what happens in fashion. Instagram is where you connect with your people. So I was handling their Instagram. User insights were right there on my plate without having to hunt for them. So that is how I started picking up an interest in the research aspect. How my clients are behaving. What do they want to see? What are we giving them? And then I would go to stores. I would talk to merchandisers. I would ask everyone everything that I could about लोगों को क्या चाहिए.
Okay.
That was my entire, and there was no reason for me to do it. It was just me trying to figure out what are we doing as a brand and what do people need from us. With all of that information, I proposed a UX redesign. Actually, I proposed a full redesign to the brand, but because I was so new, they did not trust me enough to do like a full revamp. But they did agree to a UX revamp. And when I was doing that revamp, my entire area of focus was around product awareness and adoption, and getting human representation on the website. So it was all something that I never saw from a visual sense. It was always, it looks like people need this. Like I've received validation that people need it. So technically, it was not something that was in my KRAs or in my KPIs. It was just my interest that sort of pushed me there, and it was a struggle to get it approved. Honestly, it was such a big struggle because as a brand that has been around for 10 years, they were pretty attached to what they had. So doing the entire research, pulling off that redesign sort of made me realize that I may love a lot of things and I may have a lot of inclination towards different domains, but this is something I definitely want. And I think another big factor for this was also, while writing and designing gave me like creative stimulation, the logical, analytical, and psychological side of me was never satisfied with that. So here I could find that perfect balance of doing research, synthesizing your findings, and then proposing a solution. So it was sort of ecstatic doing that entire process from start to finish. And that is how my career peaked. Like when I was doing all of this, I was constantly there on LinkedIn. I didn't even know how it started. It just started with me randomly putting my thoughts out there, commenting with people, interacting with people. And somehow, in the whole process of connecting with people and doing the research I was doing, building the product I was building, I accidentally created a persona on LinkedIn. And then I was like, oh, that's not bad. So I picked up on that.
Nice.
And I think that's the reason why I got recognized as a designer with something different to offer. So that's how, and uske baad it was just uphill. Like I did that one project and I understood that I need to be doing something like this. So eventually I started looking out for product design opportunities. I joined a startup. Like I was the fifth employee in that startup. That's how new it was. So I essentially built something from scratch, and it was all constant learning throughout. Now I'm at a mid-scale startup, and now my entire area of focus is on UX because the product is already built. We're trying to make it as better as we can. So it's been pretty interesting how things just, kind of moved one step further all by itself. And it's not that I didn't do anything about it, but my efforts were always focused on building a skill set, becoming better, trying to add value to something, and the rest just sort of came along with it. And I think that's one really good thing about the design industry. It doesn't look for geniuses, it looks for people with potential.
Right.
Essentially, anything that a designer is making has never been made before. You can never ever have validation that this person can do it. You just have to trust this person, and this person has to trust themselves. You have to stand up for yourself. You have to make a decision that, okay, I'm going to do it, I'm going to figure it out. You have
Right.
to be okay with a lot of failures. You have to be okay with struggles, and it all just rolls that way. So I think it's pretty much been like that for me.
Why is it that these different fields of design, people are not finding the right fit over there? Like you've tried interning with fashion magazines, with fashion designers as well, who you worked with, right? So how is it that people are finding this later on, that okay, this is not a field for me, and then maybe product design or UX design is what I should look for?
I think that only comes with trial and error. You can't really know if something fulfills you until you do it. And I think the important question there is to not settle. Like when I was working as a journalist, I was pretty good at it. There was nothing that was missing from my life. The only thing that was missing was I did not feel fulfilled.
Hmm.
I needed something and I could not really put my finger on it. So I looked at whatever options I had. And I think knowing for yourself when something is not working out and standing up for yourself with that courage, that okay, I know I'm in a very comfortable situation, but it is not sustainable and I need to get out of this comfort zone and figure out what to do. I think that's pretty important. And again, like I said, design is, especially product design, you don't really need a specific skill set. You can't round up a designer's profile into things that they should have. Everyone has different talents, and I think the concept of T-shaped designers has become so much more prevalent because of that. The reason why even I made it where I made it was because I was focusing on multiple talents at a time. Like I never did one thing and left everything else out of the loop.
Right.
And that I think really helps because you could be a really, really, really good designer, but when it comes to writing content on the product that you're creating, you might not be able to do it very well. And even though you'll have content writers working with you, if you have a certain grasp of the content, you will have a better idea of how you can show it, how you can structure it, or how you can communicate it. So, always indulging in multiple things, I think, is very important. And that is how you eventually figure out, okay, this thing works for me better than the other one does.
So it was good that you figured it out, right? I mean, so how did that realization happen though? I mean, or how do you evaluate yourself? Like, oh, this is not it, and you have to move forward from here. I mean, being unsettled is one thing, right? You always be unsettled and think for how do you see further. But how was that tipping point, or how do you evaluate that?
I think at some point in time, you just get that sense of enough. Like, what I have right now is good enough for me, and what I have right now doesn't feel good enough. So, like I said, it's all been a flow. There was an opportunity in front of me, and I took it. I think even that is one of the most important things for a person to reach where they want to, creating opportunities when they're not available. I was a social media person, and I fought to redesign the website without any validation of, I can do it well.
Right.
So you will not get 100% of the opportunities you don't ask for. No one else is gonna come to you and say, "Oh, it looks like you have potential for this." If
Right.
you identify as somebody who has potential for something, you owe it to yourself to try it out as much as you can. And I think the one thing that really worked for me was when I do something, I can't do it half-heartedly, and I can't be mediocre at it. I leave things that I'm mediocre at. Like that's how it is for me. If I'm doing something, I really need to know that whatever it is that I am doing is making an impact. That is a very important thing for me. Even with the companies that I've been associated with, the kind of work that I was doing, I was very particular about not filling a seat, being there and actually doing something that 10 years later I could be proud of. And even if I'm not proud of how it looks, I could be proud of, okay, I made that happen and
Right.
that made something else happen.
And that's what a lot of companies are looking for now, right? Like the
Right.
potential problem solvers, and how creatively and what do you bring to the table, right? Instead of just putting pixels which look good, right? And the people are looking for diversity and how complex your problems you can solve.
Every time I was hired, it was never on the basis of my portfolio. Never, like not once. I'm in my 5th job right now, and none of them can be credited to my portfolio. It's always about potential. And even when I've seen other people get hired, or even when I have done the hiring, I also look for that, because it's very easy to do something and then do it again. But when you do that something again, you're coming with a lot of bias. Someone who's not done it before is bringing in all their innovation, and also your commitment to the field that you're in, your efforts towards becoming better really matter. It wasn't, that I just like sort of climbed up the ladder all by itself. I had to put in a lot of hard work into it. Even though I was a design graduate, I had to study UX and UI from scratch. And after I had studied UX and UI and I had become a product designer, again I had to like sit down and reevaluate, okay, where am I right now and where do I need to go? So then I picked up a course in design thinking from Stanford. So there my entire idea was not, to become a better pixel maker or become a better flow maker. It was about understanding what is it that I need to do for people to be able to do what they want to do. So that is quite the journey of keep constantly evaluating yourself and constantly trying to be better.
Correct. And being a designer, I think not just a UI designer, UX designer, or a product designer, but I think the more diverse the work that you do and multidisciplinary work that you do, the more aspects you can look at, or more perspectives that you will have, right? And the more inclusive your product will be.
Yeah.
So I mean that really worked for you, because you worked in multiple ways with so many kinds of people, as well as you were, like you said, unfiltered. You were asking questions and learning from everyone, which is, I think, great. And you worked on diverse stuff, which I think, like for example, you worked on your for the magazines, right? And which improves the communication bit of it, which a lot of designers still lack in, right? To be able to communicate your idea, your thoughts. And I think like you mentioned in your anecdote, right, wherein you were able to push them to redesign their whole website, though you were working on something else altogether. So what worked for you over there? What do you think?
I think the best thing that worked for me was, first of all, I had access to Instagram. So the conversation with my clients and with my users was very unfiltered. For every story, for every bit of content that went out, I had pure analytics of what people liked and what they did not like. And I had access to website analytics, but I also spent a lot of time observing people's behavior in the store. And I would just go to the store, sit down, and observe. That's all I did. So I could recognize patterns and I could validate all my hypotheses based on, a customer walked in and they did not see that. They wanted that. That's how it unfolded. So I think just being observant is very important. As a designer, we never really have short ways of knowing which method of research is going to work. You just have to keep your eyes and ears open and take in everything like a sponge. You just have to. And somewhere along the way, you will find something that takes you to a solution.
Right. I mean, that's a great.
That is important.
Sorry, come again with that.
I think being proactive is very important.
Proactive, observant, and making note of each small detail, right? I think that's great. I think. So
faith in yourself too. Like when people tell you that, okay, you're not qualified enough to do this. I think I've met a lot of young designers who come from different backgrounds, and their entire story is, I wanted to be a designer, but I was told by a designer that I don't have the skill set.
Right.
And that I think is very wrong, to tell someone that they don't have it. A skill set can be built.
I think anybody can be a designer. Anybody can be a designer, and everyone is a designer. Everyone plans, right? So everyone who comes up with a plan, even if you're gifting someone something, you have to think and you have to plan. You have to design the experience, right? How you would give something to someone. So everyone is in a designer in their lives in general, right? So I think they can become better, like you said, by learning this or owning their skills. I think that's great. So you have also been mentoring people. You've been a mentor with Designers Academy. You've been also working with NIFT as well. So how has been your experience in the shoes of a mentor?
It's been pretty challenging, honestly. I mean, it's one thing to design, but to actually tell people why design the way we're supposed to design and also be innovative and creative at the same time is probably a balance that you cannot find. And I think being in place of a junior designer, the first thing that people think of when they do design is, I know everything. Everybody who is new to design thinks they know everything, and everybody who's been in design for a while understands that they don't know anything.
I absolutely agree on that.
So I think that is the most challenging part, to not break people's spirit of I know what to do, but also encourage them to understand how it has to be done before you make a decision about how to do it. So that has been challenging, but it's also been super interesting. You never you can never assume you know things. Like sometimes these kids would really ask questions that would throw me into a black hole. Okay, why do we do this? Like, why am I saying this is the right thing to do? Learning is very subjective like that, and you can't really teach design and you can't really mentor a designer. All you can really do is give them a direction into understanding how they can find that balance between what their research is telling them and what the intuition is telling them. When to, the other way to put it would be, when to push and when to step back is all you need to really know as a designer who's working on something.
Awesome. I think that's what matters at the end of the day. And it's a difficult job. I mean, you almost question your existence at what end. How am I when a designer? Because there's so many questions that come at you that are difficult to answer, and then you're like, oh, I need to go back to reading and learning. And if you have any words for our listeners, any last words?
So, like I've said before, creating an opportunity for yourself is very important. But I also think, because of my whole accidental persona building, that communicating what you think, having a voice, and standing by what you say is also important. Like I've seen people making connections on LinkedIn, and what they forget to do is tell people who they are. If you're saying something to someone, or if you're commenting and liking something, you need to articulate what you think and communicate it in a very proper way so that people understand the kind of person that you are and the kind of designer that you are. Because if tomorrow I have an opportunity for which I'm looking for a designer, if I remember the interactions I've had with people on LinkedIn, if I remember the kind of content that I've come across, I might remember someone who said something and sounds like they can add a lot of value to whatever I'm trying to build. So I think that is extremely important, having the correct network and building the correct persona for yourself. As a designer, you should be able to do that. You should be able to just ideate on who is it that you are, what do you believe in, and what kind of work do you want to do. And every time you communicate with someone on any level, that should just reflect. Like it should be your personality inside out for people to see you that way. That I think is one of the most important things that people forget. There are people I know who are amazing designers, but they're not good communicators.
That's me.
That I think is super important.
That sounds like me.
Like people cannot know anything about you if you don't tell them that. They'll only know as much as you tell them and show them. So that is important. Like show your work right there.
We have to be there, yeah. And it has become so important to be able to communicate not just your work only, but you as a human. I mean, and what are your capabilities and potential, right? I think it's very important to build a personal brand and who you are and get it out there. I think that's where it's become very important nowadays, right? Especially as a designer, where you have to show it instead of just saying that you do stuff, right? So you have to show and tell and prove yourself every time.
I saw this person who shared an application on LinkedIn for credit by making an animated video, and that was my moment of, am I obsolete as a designer now? Because people are doing really cool stuff. It's insane how someone fresh out of college could like come up with an idea of, okay, I'm gonna apply it cred. I'm gonna show them an animated video.
Right.
How?
Oh.
I don't think I would have ever thought of that. Yeah, I would have like sent an application, probably spoken to them. So it's important to just put yourself out there, whatever way you are comfortable with.
Awesome. It was lovely talking to you and having you in this conversation.
Thank you.
And we hope we have more such conversations in the coming conversations, right? Yeah. Thank you so much. We'll see you again.
It's so nice being here and actually adding value to someone, hopefully.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So guys, that was it for today. We hope you liked the X2UX story. If you have any questions, drop it in the comments down below. If you'd like to see more videos, please consider subscribing. Bye-bye. Take care. Thank you so much.